Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 11, Where Did This Come From? Before Red Dormitory, Professor Banner pushed a massive machine while sticking out his tongue to cool himself down. Struggling to stand upright, he greeted Hikaru. Hikaru-kun, hello. He looked utterly exhausted. Professor Banner's full name was unknown, only that either his surname or given name was Banner. He had black hair, wore a white shirt with a tie, and sported glasses. His ever-present smile made him seem warm and approachable. Hello, Professor Banner. This professor was not only the faculty advisor of the Red Dorm but also its cook and a part-time teacher of alchemy at the academy. Despite his seemingly timid demeanor that often made him appear easy to bully, his actual status in the academy was far from low. But Hikaru knew Professor Banner was not as weak as he seemed. In fact, he was a truly formidable individual, a genuine heir to the art of alchemy, and even a top-tier duelist capable of creating the legendary Philosopher's Stone. Even across all the Academy's dormitories, north, south, east, and west, he was probably amidst the strongest duelists, the owner of the card that struck fear into countless duelists, Macrocosmos, his exclusive card. Professor Banner, why didn't you ask us to help you carry these? These look way too heavy. A student who resembled a sloth spoke up. He was Jaden's dormmate, Chumley Huffington. Well. I got a little excited, meow, since students from other dorms are visiting. Hearing a grown man suddenly say meow at close range was enough to send shivers down one's spine. Oh, right, Hikaru-kun, come over and test your spirit adaptability. Spirit adaptability? Yet another new term. Hikaru stepped forward curiously and extended his hand as Banner scanned him with a machine. Just as I expected. He muttered softly while looking at the values on the machine before flashing another smile. Hikaru-kun also has a 4-star spirit adaptability, just like Jaden. You'll have no problem participating in the simulation, meow. Wow, the same as Jaden. Hikaru, I knew there wouldn't be any issues. Hikaru was still confused. So, what does this actually mean? It's basically a measure of how well you adapt to spirit duels. The higher your adaptability star level, the better the rewards you receive, the less mental strain you suffer, and the shorter your recovery time when returning to our dimension. It's said that Mr. Yugi Muto has a 12-star adaptability. No matter how powerful the spirits are, they all bow before him. Even if he duels in other dimensions, he never feels fatigued when returning to our world. He's the true king of duels, meow. Alright, come now, Jaden, Hikaru-kun, step in front of the dimensional gate. I'm starting the teleportation, meow, Banner said while pressing buttons on the gate, muttering to himself. Professor Banner, this machine looks way too old. Cyrus couldn't help but voice his concern. And rightly so. At a glance, the machine was similar to the Fusion Club's dimensional gate, but its exterior was visibly aged and worn. Rust covered several parts, and the components rattled noisily as if it were a retired, outdated model, completely incomparable to those in the other dorms. I can't help it, meow, the Red Dorm only has this one, but don't worry, I maintain it regularly and have personally modified it. Cyrus and Chumley were still uneasy, but Hikaru exhaled in relief. Banner was a powerful alchemist. If he had repaired it, then the machine should be fine. Come, stand properly, meow. Jaden eagerly stepped in front of the machine, while Hikaru, feeling curious, stood beside him and observed. The massive metal ring began spinning rapidly. Soon, two strange beams of purple-white light started mixing and twisting, shining down on Jaden and Hikaru. Whoa! So this is dimensional teleportation? Jaden shouted in excitement. Hikaru watched as his body slowly changed color and turned into particles, an astonishing sight. Another transmigration. Just then,
Meow.
Suddenly, Banner screamed in panic. Right after that, the machine's light rapidly shifted colors, and he frantically began pressing buttons in a panic.
What's going on? An error. Ha! Professor Banner.
Cyrus and Chumley rushed to his side in a frenzy, watching him desperately press buttons, his face twisted in frustration.
Stop it. Shut it down. I can't. Once it's activated, it can't be turned off. What?
Meanwhile, the light enveloping the two gradually shifted from purple-white to a dazzling, intense golden glow.
What's wrong, Professor Banner? Jaden became worried about him. Meow.
But there was no more time. After a sharp scream, Hikaru and Jaden vanished from this world. When Hikaru regained consciousness, he immediately noticed that his surroundings had changed drastically. He and Jaden seemed to be inside a massive prison. The air was unbearably thick and murky. Hikaru waved his hand, brushing away the dust before him, feeling his breathing become labored.
Cough, cough. Where are we? No idea. Maybe the machine malfunctioned and sent us somewhere else?
Hikaru hesitated. It was hard to say for sure, considering the Red Dorm's status in Duel Academy. The odds of something like this happening weren't exactly low. But on the other hand, there was also the possibility that Banner had done this to them on purpose. After all, in the original story, Banner had no shortage of moments where he tricked Jaden into facing dark duels or dueling with spirits. And since this world had such a convenient dimensional gate, it wouldn't be surprising if Banner had set Jaden up again.
All right. Hikaru, let's go on an adventure together.
Even after realizing something had gone wrong, Jaden quickly accepted the situation.
Anyway, as long as we win against the spirits here, we can return. By now, he had already faced dark duels, dueled against the Jinzo spirit, and even encountered the Gravekeeper spirits, dueling the Gravekeeper's chief. Supernatural events were nothing new to him. So, even though he'd been tricked again, he wasn't worried at all. Instead, he laughed and prepared to move forward. Wait, Jaden. Hikaru was just about to call out to him when suddenly, the ground trembled violently. He steadied himself and looked to the side. Outside the massive prison walls, flames erupted with a deafening roar. It was then that Hikaru finally realized. They really were in prison. Intruders! A powerful voice echoed in their ears. The two turned to look outside and saw a towering warrior clad in jet black armor. His helmet exuded authority, a shield in his left hand, and a sword in his right, adorned with gold and silver. His voice alone carried a force that seemed to shake the very heavens. Any duelist would recognize him at a glance. Black Luster Soldier. Hikaru and Jaden shouted in unison. And then, they saw the countless warriors gathered in the plaza behind Black Luster Soldier. Where had they ended up? This wasn't just some broken dimension. This was Black Luster Soldier's stronghold. Chapter 12, The Trial of the Warrior. Intruders, state your purpose. Ah, well, Black Luster Soldier, hello. Jaden was experienced. Having been almost mummified before, he quickly started explaining when he heard the Black Luster Soldier speak like that. Dimensional duel, I see. The Black Luster Soldier nodded. The Black Luster Soldier seemed surprisingly easy to talk to. He sheathed his weapon and introduced himself. I am the Harbinger tasked with guarding this world from invasion, the one who created it. I am also one of the guardians of the underworld. In this land of warriors, countless warriors come here intending to become the strongest, attempting to grow stronger through training in battles. He pointed to the distance, where countless warrior monsters were competing in martial arts, essentially playing cards. Oh! I'm so pumped! Jaden shouted excitedly. I will arrange opponents for you, the Black Luster Soldier continued. Most warriors may not wish to leave this world, but if there are any who do, it is their choice. Here, whether it's advancement or training, everything is decided by the most ancient of battle rituals. So, you need not worry. Hikaru nodded. As long as it's a duel, there's no problem.
Unless, the Black Luster Soldier turned back to add, if you lose, you will stay here for training until the so-called dimensional exploration ceases, or until you defeat me.
How can that be? Jaden jumped up, clearly displeased. You've already said it yourself, right? You're seeking to duel the spirits of broken dimensions to provide energy. The Black Luster Soldier's cold, handsome face remained expressionless. But our world doesn't need such things.
For me, I am here guarding the eternal rest of my king, protecting the gates of this underworld, and not allowing any outsider to intrude.
He said softly, this is the greatest concession I can make.
Jaden was still about to argue, but Hikaru patted him on the shoulder and shook his head.
Hikaru?
We are, after all, the intruders. Hikaru shook his head.
Besides, if we win, it'll be fine.
Looking at the situation now, this Black Luster Soldier seemed to be the guardian of the resting place of the unnamed pharaoh from Yu-Gi-Oh!, the same one that Seto Kaiba desperately tried to find, the gatekeeper of the underworld's entrance.
This kind of spirit wasn't something they needed to provoke, because he was an absolute lawful entity.
Even though they were rash intruders, as long as they didn't overstep, he wouldn't attack them. In fact, Hikaru even wanted to make a good impression. After all, there was, right before his eyes, a real top-tier spirit.
Ha, that's right.
Alright then, Black Luster Soldier, quickly find us some opponents.
Jaden shouted, raising his voice. The Black Luster Soldier gave Jaden and Hikaru a deep look, slowly nodding. I will find warriors suitable for you.
Afterward, a few warriors came over to clean up the area so that Hikaru and Jaden wouldn't be so uncomfortable. After a while, under the watchful eyes of everyone, two warriors dressed in a very familiar way came in front of them.
Wow! Avian, it's real!
Hikaru, look, Jaden couldn't contain his excitement, gripping the prison bars and eagerly leaning forward. Red mask, white wings, and all covered in green feathers, who else could it be but elemental hero Avian?
Seeing his favorite monster appear right before his eyes, how could he not be thrilled?
Next to Avian, a knight riding a horse looked quite imposing, with particularly similar aspects to the Black Luster Soldier, a knight with a certain dignity.
Gaia the Fierce Knight. Two normal monsters, huh? Do not underestimate our warriors, the Black Luster Soldier spoke from a distance as the referee.
They are the elite among my warriors.
Elite?
Gaia was fine, but Avian, with only 1,000 attack points, was also considered elite. It seemed they shouldn't let their guard down just because they were normal monsters. The rules of the match are a tag duel, with both sides starting at 8,000 life points, using the same field.
The intruders will attack first, and the opponent can attack afterward, the Black Luster Soldier continued, explaining the rules. It was the standard tag duel format. Hikaru nodded. Then, warrior ceremony, start. Duel. ×2. Jaden and Hikaru, LP, 8,000.
Avian and Gaia, LP, 8,000.
With the Black Luster Soldier's announcement, Jaden and Hikaru spoke in unison. Afterward, Jaden drew a card and quickly began his move. I summon in defense position, Elemental Hero Playman. Elemental Hero Playman, level 4 Earth Warrior 2000 DF normal. Next, I set one card and end my turn.
Hikaru pressed the duel disc, checking Jaden's set card, and then his eyes blurred, feeling dizzy.
Jaden, why did you set that card?
Don't worry, Hikaru.
I set a trap in a defense position, it's the perfect turn for defense. My turn, draw.
For some reason, his expression didn't look very good, and his face appeared a bit dark. Avian had a blank expression, even slightly cold, as he glanced at his hand and immediately activated one of the cards.
I activate my spell card, Dark Fusion. What?
Hikaru's eyes widened.
What fusion? This is a fusion card specifically for fiend-type monsters. I'll fuse the Elemental Hero Burstinatrix in my hand with myself. The pitch-black wings turn into blades and tear apart everything before me. I fusion summon Evil Hero Inferno Wing.
Before their stunned eyes, a slender female demon with black wings slowly descended in front of them.
Evil Hero Inferno Wing. Level 6 FIRE Fiend Type 2100 ATK. Evil. Evil hero? From elemental to evil? This, and it's a fiend-type monster. Jaden was still a bit confused, not fully understanding the current situation.
He mumbled, "It has the same attack as Flame Wingman, but turning from Flame Wingman into a beautiful female demon seems pretty cool."
Battle Inferno Wing, attack Clayman. I activated trap card. Jaden quickly responded as the opponent declared an attack, hurriedly getting ready to activate his set card.
"Wait, Jaden," Hikaru quickly tried to stop him, but it was too late.
Trap card, Sakuretsu Armor.
Jaden wiped his nose with his finger and carefully explained, "Hikaru, don't worry.
Sakuretsu Armor's effect can be activated when the opponent declares an attack, targeting one attacking monster. That monster is destroyed."
Upon seeing this trap card, Hikaru slapped his forehead and covered his eyes.
Avian shook his head helplessly, while Gaia couldn't help but laugh. In the distance, the Black Luster Soldier spoke up, "Warriors from another world, the monster's fusion summoned by Dark Fusion cannot be destroyed by effects in that turn." What? Boom! Clayman was destroyed instantly. Jaden and Hikaru, LP, 8,000-7,900. Does it also have piercing damage?
Not only that, Avian puffed out his chest proudly and explained, "Inferno Wing's effect can be activated when it destroys a monster by battle. It deals damage equal to the higher of the destroyed monster's attack or defense."
Huh? Isn't this just a stronger version of Flame Wingman?
Jaden was still talking when the demon woman arrived before them, showing a seductive smile, and then released pitch-black flames.
Whoa, hot, hot, hot.
Jaden, being the loyal type, knowing it was his fault for not playing well, immediately stepped in front of Hikaru, taking the flames for both of them. This was a real duel with monsters, and every battle damage was real.
Jaden and Hikaru, LP, 7,900-5,900. End of turn. Avian crossed his arms, acting like a pro.
"Sorry, Hikaru, I dragged you into this." Jaden still wore a bright smile on his face, apologizing, "Looks like you're facing a strong monster now." Hikaru rolled his eyes.
Does this guy even realize how much of a debuff Sakuretsu Armor is?
In the original story, no one who used that card had a good outcome. I can't believe we got such a terrible start in my first tag duel in this world. He glanced at his hand.
Forget it, it's just fate. Let me show you how it's done and turn this around. Chapter 13, Pursuing the Ultimate Fusion.
Inside a vast coliseum, with torches lining its perimeter, countless dual spirits surround the ritual platform, watching this duel from another dimension.
At the moment, this is a disappointing duel for them.
The human's turn was so ordinary that it could only be described as mundane, failing to excite these warriors. They couldn't understand why Lord Chaos Warrior, the Black Luster Soldier, had them come to watch.
My turn, draw.
Hikaru drew a card and carefully examined his hand.
Nice, this draw is pretty good. I activate the spell card, Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion? The well-versed Black Luster Soldier immediately recognized the card. Oh. Are we finally going to see Hikaru's full fusion deck? Jaden excitedly exclaimed from the side. Full fusion deck? The two opponents exchanged confused glances. It sounded impressive, but what did it mean? I pay 1,000 life points. Ugh. Hikaru felt a sharp pain in his body. So this is the real duel, huh?
It's surely intense.
Jaden and Hikaru, LP, 5,900-4,900.
This card allows me to special summon a fusion monster with levels 5 or less from my extra deck.
Wow, it's the same type of effect as Ready Fusion. Same type? It's the ultimate upgrade.
I special summon from my extra deck, Thousand Eyes Restrict. The evil god, covered in eyes, emerged from the instant noodle cup.
Jaden's excitement paused for a moment. It was a bit gross.
Thousand Eyes Restrict, Level 1 DARK Spellcaster 0 ATK.
Thousand Eyes Restrict. Gaia exclaimed in surprise.
As a dual monster spirit, he, of course, knew this famous evil god.
Hikaru also liked this card a lot. Although it looked a bit ugly, that didn't matter. The goal of a true duelist is to be number one in the world. Gender and looks don't matter, as long as it's strong. So, when he fused this monster using super polymerization during recent duels, he was extremely happy, because there were quite a few ways in his deck to bring this card out. I activate the effect of Thousand Eyes Restrict. Once per turn, it can target one monster on your field. That monster becomes equipped to this monster as an equip card. Each of Thousand Eyes restricts many eyes emitted eerie purple light. It shined on the demon woman, transforming her into a shadow and devouring her into its body. Ugh! Avian shivered with goosebumps. As a fusion material for Inferno Wing, seeing its evolved form being eaten was incredibly unsettling. Thousand Eyes Restrict can take your monsters as its own power, increasing its attack, Avian said. But, if I'm not mistaken, a monster special summoned by instant fusion will be destroyed at the end of the turn. He flapped his wings as if dispelling the malice. No matter how strong a monster is, once it disappears, it becomes meaningless. I, of course, know that. Hikaru quickly followed up, revealing another card from his hand. I activate the continuous spell card, Flame Sword's Realm. A massive ring of fire illuminated the arena. Once per turn, I can send one monster from my hand or field in face-up attack position to the graveyard to special summon one Flame Swordsman from my extra deck as a fusion summon. I send the Thousand Eyes Restrict on the field to the graveyard in fusion summon, Flame Swordsman. Flame Swordsman, level 5 FIRA Warrior 1800 ATK. Wow! It's me! A spirit in the stands couldn't contain their excitement upon seeing themselves summoned. It was probably similar to the feeling of appearing on TV. Got Thousand Eyes Restrict out there, bro. This is a huge win. Nice, if he wins this, I'll definitely help him out. Still unaware that he had gained a warrior's approval simply by pulling off a combination, Hikaru continued with his move. I activate the equip spell card, Salamandra Fusion. This equipped spell card can only be equipped to fire attribute warrior-type monsters, and the equipped monster's attack increases by 700 points. Flame Swordsman, ATK, 1800-2500. Another fusion? Now everyone understood what Hikaru's so-called full fusion deck was all about. A deck entirely composed of fusion cards, can that truly work? Well, this warrior from another dimension is using it, right? True, but if he weren't the second player in a tag duel, he wouldn't have had the chance to use Thousand Eyes Restrict to devour a monster and then perform a tribute fusion summon, would he? Whether in the human world or the spirit world, when people saw such an extreme deck, there would be some discussion. Hey, you guys! Stop talking nonsense! Before Hikaru could speak, Jaden was already shouting excitedly at them. Hikaru is chasing the ultimate fusion, the noble art of fusion summoning. Don't disturb him. Ultimate fusion? He indeed is a warrior with a clear pursuit. Hikaru stroked his chin. With this kind of speech, he could boast to the passionate enthusiasts in the fusion club, but in front of spirits. Forget it. If you're going to lie, lie to yourself. Anyway, it's fun. That's right, fusion is the most noble form of summoning. I attack directly with Flame Swordsman. Avian and Gaia, LP, 8000-5500. Alright. Great counterattack, Hikaru. It's still early, don't get careless, Hikaru replied, a little speechless. He glanced at his hand and thought for a moment. I set 2 cards and end my turn. An exciting turn. Destroyed a monster, summoned a powerful monster, and even left some face-down cards. Gaia, sitting opposite Hikaru, nodded lightly and commented, but this isn't nearly enough. My turn. Draw. I activate the ritual spell card, Chaos Ritual. I offer Keen Ace and Swift Gaia the Fierce Knight from my hand as tributes and ritual summon. Black Luster Soldier. The noble warrior crossed the boundaries of light and dark, descending from the sky, as if the whole world was cheering for him, murmuring his name. Hikaru and Jaden both looked at the Black Luster Soldier on the referee's platform, but the warrior showed no emotional reaction.
Black Luster Soldier, Level 8 Earth Warrior 3000 ATK. Gaia confidently spoke, "In my village of Gaia, all warriors strive for the ultimate goal of the ritual of chaos. Ritual summoning is the most respected form of summoning in the world. A novice warrior like you would never understand." That might be true. If someone constantly pursues ritual summoning, they deserve some respect. After all, ritual summoning requires ritual monsters to be summoned, but, then again, in Hikaru's era, many ritual monsters no longer even required ritual spells to summon. "Hikaru, how are your face-down cards?" Jaden noticed the appearance of the Black Luster Soldier, gulped, and quickly called out to Hikaru. Hikaru shook his head. As a seasoned duelist, he wasn't about to casually use his cards. Different opponents required different strategies. And more importantly, this was Black Luster Soldier. Sure enough, as Hikaru had feared, Gaia immediately revealed another card from his hand. "I banish from my graveyard the dark attribute me and the light attribute key mace, descend." Black Luster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning. A Black Luster Soldier far brighter and more radiant than the ritual version descended from the sky, his entire form glowing with golden light, as if he were the sun itself. Black Luster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, Level 8 Light Warrior 3000 ATK. Wow, that's strong. 2 monsters on the level of Blue Eyes White Dragon. Jaden shouted in excitement. I can feel my blood boiling. Hikaru's expression grew serious. 2 Black Luster Soldiers, this meant Gaia's spirit power was no low level. He might even truly become a new Black Luster Soldier. Now's my chance. I activate the trap card, Salamandra with Chain, and equip it to the Flame Swordsman, increasing its attack by 700 points, while also choosing one monster on the field to be set face down. Flame Swordsman, ATK, 2500-3200. What? Gaia's face, hidden behind his mask, showed surprise. The one I chose is, of course, the Envoy of the Beginning. Leaving the Envoy of the Beginning on the field would only create trouble for himself. He might even lose his life if the attack came. Incredible work, bro. You set down the Envoy of the Beginning. Say no more, I've never felt this great before, it's like a dream come true. In the audience, the Flame Swordsman and his friends were already cheering. That's amazing, Hikaru. Not only did you defend against that difficult Envoy of the Beginning, but you also created a powerful monster with 3200 attack. Now the opponent's attack. Naive. Gaia sneered, I activate the equip spell, United We Stand. Equip it to the Black Luster Soldier. For every face-up monster I control, its ATK increases by 800. Black Luster Soldier, ATK, 3800. This is bad, now it's stronger than the Flame Swordsman. Black Luster Soldier, attack the Flame Swordsman. The Black Luster Soldier instantly disappeared from his side of the field and suddenly teleported right in front of the Flame Swordsman, striking down with a single sword swing. A monster equipped with Salamandra Fusion can replace itself to prevent destruction. But it doesn't prevent the damage. Jaden and Hikaru, LP, 4900-4300. Flame Swordsman, ATK, 3200-2500. Ha! Hikaru let out a sigh of relief. Jaden had set up so many flags today that Hikaru was barely keeping up. Did you see that? A ritual monster defeated a fusion monster. Gaia's smile curled upward. I set one card face down and end my turn. That's incredible, to be capable of handling the Black Luster Soldier like that. Plus, he even protected his monster. Ultimate fusion, huh? I'm kind of tempted to follow this warrior. Chapter 14, Fusion is tolerant of everything. Amidst the murmurs of countless spirits, the turn shifted to Jaden. He looked at his hand, pausing. Jaden, no matter what, you must not let the Envoy of the Beginning flip face up. I got it. The Envoy of the Beginning could banish monsters directly or attack twice. No matter what, they couldn't let it stand back up. Otherwise, their chances of victory would be slim. But, the Envoy of the Beginning had a defense of 2500.
It wouldn't be easy to take down. In that case, I activate the spell card, Polymerization. I fuse Avian and Burstinatrix from my hand.
Seeing Inferno Wing display its power earlier had already excited him. Now that he finally had the right fusion materials, and needed a high attack monster, he wouldn't hesitate.
I fusion summon Flame Wingman. Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, level 6 WAND Warrior 2100 ATK. Haha, Flame Wingman, huh? Bro, isn't that you? Seeing Flame Wingman appear, Gaia burst into laughter and turned to Avian.
That's merely one side of me, Avian folded his arms and said calmly. Jaden, if you only see the glory of a hero but not the darkness and suffering behind them, you'll never become a true hero.
What? Jaden was momentarily confused by Avian's words. Why did that sound like he knew him? Besides, with just 2100 ATK, do you really think you can defeat Lord Chaos Warrior? Keep dreaming. Gaia sneered.
Whatever, a hero needs a battlefield worthy of a hero.
I activate the field spell, Skyscraper. Here it comes.
Watching from the side, Hikaru suddenly felt his blood pumping. The anti-3000 Slayer had arrived.
Skyscraper allowed elemental hero monsters to gain 1000 ATK when attacking a monster with higher ATK than themselves. For Flame Wingman, with 2100 ATK, this meant he could take down any monster 3000 ATK or below with ease. Using the field to defeat the Lord Chaos Warrior? Not a bad idea, but too naive. I activate the trap card, Ring of Destruction. Oh, crap, a banned card.
In Hikaru's world, this card had been erased and unbanned, but here, it was still in its original broken state. Select one monster on the field, destroy it, and inflict damage to both players equal to its ATK. A massive ring shot out from the card, locking onto Flame Wingman. Boom! The Flame Wingman exploded into dust. Hikaru and Jaden, LP, 4300 2200. Avian and Gaia, LP, 5500 3400. No. Jaden tensed up upon seeing the situation. On the other side, Avian made sarcastic remarks, if it were Dark Fusion, this would never have happened. Jaden looked uncomfortable, yet Avian pressed on, heroes are not just about their shining glory. Darkness is what truly represents a hero's strength. Jaden felt uneasy for a moment. He wasn't afraid of being stuck here himself, he was just worried that the new friend he had called over would end up trapped because of him. Don't listen to him, Jaden. Hikaru shouted from the side. Avian. Stop spouting nonsense. Everyone has the right to pursue what they believe in. To me, the pinnacle of fusion is my goal, and for Jaden, a hero is a hero. Avian's expression darkened with irritation. Don't force your ideals onto him. Jaden, use my card. Use my card. A sudden shout snapped Jaden back to reality. He looked at the field and, in an instant, realized something. His smile returned, bright as ever. So it's this card, Hikaru, did you prepare this on purpose? Of course, I told you, I adjusted my deck in advance. Hikaru looked at Jaden, showing a rare warm smile, and gave him a thumbs up. Fusion is all-encompassing. A tag duel is just like fusion. Trusting your partner and supporting them is also a form of fusion. As Hikaru finished speaking, countless spirits were moved by his words. Wow, I've decided, I will dedicate my life to this warrior. So, this is the pinnacle of fusion. So cool. Flame Swordsman, can you introduce me later? I'm a fusion monster too. At the moment, an untold number of warriors stirred by Hikaru's words contemplated leaving their dimension. Jaden took a deep breath, looked across at Avian, and resolutely summoned a monster. I normal summon, Elemental Hero Sparkman. Elemental Hero Sparkman, level 4 Light Warrior ATK 1600 normal. Why summon that guy at this point? Avian scoffed. If you don't deal with Envoy of the Beginning this turn, next turn, I'll show you the power of Dark Fusion. Avian, you and Sparkman don't get along? Jaden was puzzled. that guy always competes with me for Burstinatrix's affection.
No, wait. Why did you ask that?
You heard nothing.
Avian blurted out. Darkness, huh? Jaden wasn't sure how to respond, so he could only sigh.
Well then, this is the perfect time to smooth things over.
What do you mean? Avian was confused.
Then Hikaru shouted, I activate my set card.
Miracle Fusion. Miracle Fusion.
No way, that fusion maniac actually set a card like this.
Avian clearly recognized the card. Haha, Hikaru is a duelist who pursues the ultimate fusion.
Of course, he would have this kind of card. Jaden shouted excitedly, then immediately followed up with, according to this card's effect, I can banish monsters from the field and graveyard as fusion materials to fusion summon an elemental hero fusion monster. I will fuse the Flame Wingman in my graveyard with the Sparkman on my field. From within the Radiance, behold Flame Wingman's new form.
Fusion Summon. Elemental Hero Shining Flare Wingman.
The armored Flame Wingman changed from Wind attribute to the Light attribute, symbolizing Sparkman, and his attack power rose to 2,500.
For every monster in my graveyard, Shining Flare Wingman gains 300 ATK. In my graveyard, I have 3 elemental heroes, Avian, Burstinatrix, and Clayman. Elemental Hero Shining Flare Wingman, level 8 Light Warrior 3400 ATK. This is bad. Avian staggered back uncomfortably. Shining Flare Wingman inherited my ability. That's right. When he destroys a monster in battle, he inflicts damage equal to its ATK. Jaden pointed at the glowing hero in the sky.
Black Luster Soldier has 3,800 ATK, so during battle, Shining Flare Wingman will reach 4,400 ATK.
Our life points are only 3,400.
Realizing this, Avian furiously turned to Gaia.
You bastard! Why did you use Ring of Destruction? Why not wait until the battle phase? Now I don't even get another turn.
Hey, you little brat, before the trial started, weren't you the one who told me to target this human?
Gaia shot back. Moreover, I had to deal with that fusion maniac called Hikaru. It wasn't easy for me either. If I had known, I would have gone all out. Ugh, you were totally useless. You completely dragged me down.
What nonsense are you spouting?
You should have used Dark Fusion on something else.
Why is it so bright all of a sudden?
Ha!
The two arguing spirits turned their heads, only to see the radiant warrior standing before them, erupting with blazing white flames.
The flames engulfed them instantly. Avian and Gaia, LP, 3400. The winners are the warriors from another dimension.
Black Luster Soldier slowly rose, his body shining brilliantly, showing no concern that he had been destroyed. As promised, warriors from another world, I shall personally send you back to your world.
Hoo-hoo! We won! That was such an exciting duel. Jaden cheered in excitement.
Hikaru rubbed his head as he watched the prison doors slowly open, letting out a relieved sigh.
After dodging so many death flags, they had finally won.
Looking at the stands filled with eager spirits, Hikaru's lips curled uncontrollably into a wide grin, almost unable to contain his expression.
This trip was definitely worth it. Chapter 15, Gift. The spirits in this world were surprisingly easy to talk to and even quite enthusiastic. After the duel ended and Hikaru and Jaden left the prison, countless spirits surrounded them, blocking the path entirely.
Some asked them what the human world was like, others asked how they had come to this world, and there were even some asking if they were interested in swapping decks and cards. Of course, some spirits also wanted to join them and become a part of their strength. Among them was the Flame Swordsman, who had previously shown great interest in Hikaru, and had been especially eager after Hikaru sent the Thousand Eyes Restrict to the graveyard to special summon him. Dark Flare Knight accompanied him, who also felt following Hikaru would be beneficial witnessing his performance. Additionally, there were some other fusion monster spirits, like the Cyberblader and Dragon Warrior. The latter was a brave warrior, while the former was the ace monster of the original heroine of GX, Alexis Rhodes, or so it seemed. Hikaru couldn't be sure whether Alexis Rhodes was truly the heroine, nor could he confirm whether that girl who was mainly a ritual user considered her, a fusion monster, to be the ace monster. But at least she was delightful to look at, and having such a woman spirit in his chaotic and twisted deck would certainly be a joy. Unfortunately, unlike the two sword masters, these two didn't want to leave this dimension with him. Instead, they gave him cards. A bit of a disappointment, losing out on a spirit sister, but getting the cards was fine too. They also mentioned that although they weren't the physical spirits, their power still resided within the cards, and they could assist other spirits, countering some of the evil forces. Simply put, she could boost the power of the Flame Swordsman and Dark Flare Knight, giving Hikaru extra energy when facing evil spirits, supernatural forces, telekinetic abilities, or even in any dangerous abyss. It shouldn't be taken lightly, so Hikaru listened seriously because he knew these things could happen in the human world. It was quite a harvest. Now that he had a second Flame Swordsman, he wouldn't need to pair so many Salamandra cards with just one. The Cyberblader was also a great answer to sudden mutation. In this world, with LPs relatively low, the Cyberblader had a good chance of doubling its ATK through effects and defeating opponents. Having some free time, Hikaru turned to look at Jaden. He saw the avian standing above Jaden, pointing at him and talking non-stop, his mouth moving like a machine gun, while Jaden was awkwardly laughing and scratching his neck, looking quite embarrassed. Anyway, Jaden, you dueled like it was too simple, and you think being a hero is also simple. If it wasn't for Hikaru helping you, how would you have dealt with the upcoming Chaos Warrior? And don't forget, I still had cards in my hand. There's also that Sakuretsu armor. You never even asked me about Dark Fusion or the monster effects, you just rushed in. Even Hikaru told you, if you had saved the Sakuretsu armor, you could have destroyed the ritual monsters that came afterward. Even though Avian was quite dark in color, he still cared for Jaden. And it looked like Avian really knew Jaden. Hikaru watched as Avian lectured Jaden for half an hour. Then, as if not fully satisfied, Avian flapped his wings and embraced Jaden, transforming into a card. Hikaru's eyes gleamed with excitement as he looked at the card and turned to Gaia. What are you staring at? I'm never going to follow a fusion maniac. Gaia grunted, saying firmly, my life is dedicated to clearing paths and being the vanguard for Chaos Warrior, I will never switch sides. Hikaru twitched his eyebrows, alright. He shrugged. In spite of what he said, Hikaru could remember Gaia had different and various evolution stages, much like Digimon or Pokemon, where the same creature can evolve into different forms. In fact, Gaia encompassed almost all summoning methods, and the Gaia Dragon Knight line is undoubtedly the largest branch, which is Fusion. Gaia. Lord Chaos Warrior. At some point, the grand creation had already arrived before them, and all the spirits half-knelt to welcome this strongest warrior. From the card lore, it was said from the very inception a soldier undertook the baptism of light and darkness, becoming the warrior who split the heavens and the earth, the original and strongest Chaos Warrior. After this battle, have you not realized your own flaws? My lord, You and the Avian both underwent the trial, but the Avian seeks to make duelists more courageous and fearless, while you were merely a friend called over. Yet, until the duel ended, you never resolved your issues with the Avian, always arguing with each other. I can understand your friendship, but the failure of the ritual, both of you made mistakes in your own ways. When warriors from another world make mistakes, they don't complain. Rather, they trust each other and have each other's backs with cards capable of turning the tide. You, however, activated your trap prematurely just to show off your power. You truly shouldn't leave with this warrior because your training is still far from enough. I understand now, Chaos Warrior. Gaia's face showed a hint of shame as he lowered his head and sincerely said to Hikaru, warrior from another world, this time, it was my failure. In the future, I will personally apologize. Hikaru and Jaden exchanged a glance, then smiled and said softly, it's alright. Acknowledging others is also part of fusion. To you, rituals are the most respected, and to me, fusion is the noblest. There's no real difference, just differing beliefs. So you don't need to feel embarrassed about it. After hearing Hikaru's words,
Gaia lowered his head even further. Dual spirits were truly innocent.
If it had been a real person hearing Chaos Warrior's lecture, they definitely wouldn't have accepted it so easily and would have at least tried to argue. Chaos Warrior gently nodded, then looked at Hikaru, extending his hand. A purple glow slowly emanated from his hand, enveloping Hikaru's body. The light gradually turned into a purple card and fell into his hand.
Very well. Warrior from another world, as agreed, Gaia should have followed you. But since he cannot leave, I will personally bestow upon you the power you deserve. This fusion power within me is now yours.
Jaden, who stood beside him, along with Hikaru, was utterly stunned, staring wide-eyed at the card.
Master of Chaos. Its fusion materials are Dark Magician and a Chaos Ritual Monster, a fusion monster.
No wonder he's the original Chaos Warrior, such power is incomparable. Immediately after, the Chaos Warrior raised his sword again and drew a circle in the air. The circle began to spin wildly, and soon, a brand new portal appeared, even showing a completely different scene on the other side. Well then, without further ado, I will personally send you back to your world.
May I ask, Chaos Warrior, how will you send us back? Hikaru asked, a little curious. At that moment, the Chaos Warrior finally smiled slightly. You don't think you were sent to this world and are now in prison, do you?
Ha!
Ah!
When the two of them followed the Chaos Warrior to a door, they finally understood. It turned out they had been intercepted during their transfer by the Chaos Warrior using his own power. Now, all they needed to do was enter the dimensional gate and return to their world.
Warriors from another dimension, I welcome you to come again sometime, said the Chaos Warrior before they left. However, guarding the underworld is also my duty.
I hope that when you return to your dimension, you do not speak of the secrets of this world. Don't worry, Mr. Chaos Warrior. Jaden raised his right arm and bent it, patting his bicep with his left hand, confidently saying, "We'll never speak of this world's secrets. Jaden and Avian are quite familiar, so we can just say we came from a world of heroes." Hikaru also looked up, stroking his chin as he thought of an excuse.
The Chaos Warrior nodded gently. Then, farewell.
Warriors who seek a higher realm.
Chapter 16, Adaptation.
Passing through the door, Hikaru felt countless beams of light pass through his body. His body seemed to shatter into countless pieces, being scrambled, until the sunlight reappeared, and his body began to reassemble, eventually becoming a person and landing on the ground.
Ugh!
Hikaru landed on the ground, his legs gave way, and he almost collapsed.
So heavy! So heavy!
He felt his body and limbs suddenly become countless times heavier. The sky seemed to have entered dusk, and the time flow of the two dimensions seemed to be the same.
Jaden!
Hikaru! While Hikaru was still feeling dazed, someone had already rushed over to them, asking anxiously, "Are you all right?"
"Oh, I'm fine,"
Jaden said casually. Hikaru shook his head hard and looked at Cyrus and Chumley. After a brief pause, he spoke, "I'm fine too, just a little dizzy." "It's a normal phenomenon." Meowp. Teacher Banner pushed up his glasses and said with a smile, "Jaden has extraordinary adaptability, so he's fine coming back to the real world, but Hikaru, your adaptability isn't that high, so you'll need to rest for a while. And it's an old model, so it's a bit more damaging to the body. Normally, people would need 5 or 6 days to recover." Meow.
"Is that so?" Hikaru nodded, understanding.
"It makes sense. Jaden wasn't exactly a normal human in the original story, he was the reincarnation of the Supreme King. For him, this kind of thing wasn't much of a problem. Moreover, while Hikaru felt unwell, it was just dizziness and a heavy body, and after a few deep breaths, it seemed he was getting better.
It felt like running a kilometer. It seems superfusion isn't just helpful in dueling after all, huh? Ah, I'm so glad you're back, Meow. Otherwise, I would have had to let the academic affairs take you away." Seeing that they were fine, Teacher Banner patted his chest, wiped his tears, and had a sense of relief. "Academic affairs?"
Hikaru looked over and saw a row of people in dark green uniforms and military hats, looking at them seriously, as if they were soldiers. The leader, a woman, spoke coldly after hearing Teacher Banner's words. Teacher Banner, there were no accidents this time, so academic affairs won't be punishing you. However, the dimensional gate will be taken by us and handed over to the council for repairs, and as for your salary this month, you should get ready. Hikaru remembered that in the original story, these were the people who arrested Jaden after he broke the school rules. They were the soldiers on the Duel Academy Island, directly under the council. How could this be, meow? Teacher Banner said with a mournful face. It's all Teacher Banner's fault. If he hadn't pressed the buttons randomly, Jaden and Hikaru wouldn't have almost not made it back. Cyrus said. Teacher Banner, though I'm also sad, Cyrus is right. Even Chumley, the good-natured one, felt that Teacher Banner had gone a bit too far. I just thought it was a bit old, so I tried adding some things. Teacher Banner sulked for a while, then suddenly remembered something and asked Jaden, by the way, Jaden, where did you guys go? Hikaru, where did we go again? Ha ha ha. Jaden instinctively scratched the back of his neck, grinning like a fool. Before merging with Yubel, Jaden was still too funny. We went to a hero's dimension. The spirits there were very welcoming to Jaden, and it even seemed like they were old acquaintances of Jaden. Hikaru said without hesitation. Yeah. Jaden quickly followed up. Jaden, what's going on? Cyrus asked in confusion. Jaden scratched his face with his finger, thought for a moment, then chuckled. Actually, while it might seem a bit unbelievable, I know Jaden better than any of them. For example, while Jaden could happily eat the homemade dishes Banner Sensei made, even being the only first year in Red Dorm who could finish 2 big bowls in one sitting, he wasn't a kid from a poor family. On the contrary, his parents were high-ranking executives at Kaiba Corp and talented researchers in advanced technology. Cyrus's eyes widened in shock upon hearing Jaden's words. Years ago, Kaiba had started exploring alternate dimensions, searching for a gateway to the underworld. As part of a promotional event, Kaiba sent cards and drawings made by children into the first interdimensional portal, scattering them randomly across countless worlds. And those cards and drawings were Jaden's. Chumley was dumbfounded. I heard about that. I even signed up for it. It was obvious, whether in talent, spirit power, or family background, that someone like Chumley could never compare to Jaden. So, what does that mean? Even Banner Sensei leaned in curiously. That hero is... Yeah. Jaden opened his deck and pulled out an unusual card, a nostalgic smile on his face. He experienced many things in another dimension, gained new strength, and transformed into a new form. But when he saw me again, he still returned to how he used to be. He is my partner and my friend. I see. Congratulations, Jaden. Hikaru, who had been listening, nodded in acknowledgement. It seemed in this world, instead of cards sent into space like in the original, Jaden's cards had been sent to another dimension. No wonder that Feathered Hero was so close to him. In any case, the matter was settled. Neither Jaden nor Hikaru would ever speak about their trip to the gate of the underworld. And, after reuniting with his feathered hero, Jaden understood his future goal, to find and reclaim all of his lost partners. Unfortunately, the dimensional gate required energy to recharge in the first place, and since Red Dorm was the lowest tier dorm, it received the least energy allocation each quarter. In the first place, it wasn't used much, and now that the Academic Affairs Department had taken it, it was unlikely that anyone could use it for some time. Jaden and others happily prepared to go to the cafeteria to wait for Banner to cook, while Cyrus and Chumley kept asking Jaden more details. Banner had been explaining things to the teachers from the Academic Affairs Department for a long time before he finally returned exhausted to the dormitory. He greeted Hikaru and thanked him for agreeing to participate in the tag team event. After watching Hikaru walk away, Banner slowly opened his eyes. I wasn't wrong. That student indeed has an extraordinarily high talent in alchemy. Alchemy, the science of those seeking immortality, but in this card world, it also had another name, fusion. He rubbed his eyes and felt a bit emotional. I never expected to meet a student with such talent at the final stage of my life. At the same time, at the highest level of the Fusion Club, a figure stumbled out of the dimensional gate, falling to the ground and coughing violently. Beside him stood the emotionless head of the Fusion Club, Leo Akaba. Can you stand up? Of course, I can, Professor. The student struggled to push himself up with his hands and stood up with effort. Good. In a few days, when your body has fully recovered, go and finish what's in your heart. Don't disappoint me. Wait for me, Hikaru, I'll have my revenge. The student's eyes blazed with fire as if he could burn someone alive with his gaze. He struggled to get up, leaning against the wall to barely stand, while his mind had no other emotions, only one thought: revenge. As for Hikaru, at this moment, just a few minutes after exiting the dimensional gate, he no longer seemed dizzy or uncomfortable. He casually bought a bread loaf and ate it while thinking about his deck and cards, and was already full of energy and bouncing around. Chapter 17, Win? The human world is different from other dimensions. Spirits do not have a physical form here, and although Hikaru has the power of superfusion, unlike Jaden or Ches Princeton, who can directly see them, he can only barely hear the voices of the spirits. However, even just hearing their voices is quite impressive because, in the original story, Aster Phoenix, the Destiny Hero user who also had spirits, couldn't even hear them. After stepping through the dimensional gate, Hikaru resumed attending his classes as usual. He wasn't sure if it was just his imagination, but Professor Banner, who used to be the only one talking at the podium while the students below either isolated themselves or slept, frequently asked him questions during class. But lately, when teaching Hikaru, Banner was especially enthusiastic, often asking Hikaru for his opinion after explaining a section of the lesson. Hikaru felt somewhat confused. In this world, alchemy was a real thing. As a super alchemist who had actually created the Philosopher's Stone, a top-tier alchemist who had truly achieved immortality, it wasn't strange that Professor Banner wanted to find an heir. After all, his immense talent had no successor. In the original story, he discovered the main character, Jaden, had an extraordinary talent for fusion, so before dying, he passed on the fruits of his life's work to Jaden, a card that in the anime was considered the strongest fake card, the Philosopher's Stone. It could be transformed into any card the duelist imagined. This card had dwell, yet, Banner's knowledge and skills, those had no one to inherit them. If Jaden could craft a real Philosopher's Stone like Banner, who would even dare duel him afterward? Let's not mention that Hikaru was already focused on studying, taking exams, and striving for a scholarship to improve his impoverished life. Now, noticing that Banner was eager to teach him, he naturally didn't hesitate. He focused his mind and studied seriously. He wasn't sure if it was because he had gained 2 spirits after visiting another dimension, or if his super fusion power had further recovered, but the alchemy that had been completely incomprehensible to him when he first crossed over was gradually making more sense, and he was even able to follow Banner's explanations. As his knowledge of alchemy grew, he also gradually discovered something: he had slightly improved his control over superfusion. For example, the day he first crossed over, he could only fuse an eraser and a pencil, but now, he could fuse a ballpoint pen. A remarkable improvement. You seem to be really interested in alchemy? After the alchemy class one day, Hikaru was still furiously writing notes. It wasn't until he finished that he noticed someone in a yellow school uniform had appeared beside him. The person politely greeted him after he finished his notes. "Who are you?" Hikaru looked confused at the stranger beside him. Cough, cough. The stranger, seemingly surprised by Hikaru's response, continued, I heard you and Jaden went to another dimension? Did that big-mouth Jaden start bragging again? Or was it Ross? Hikaru tidied up the stuff on his desk, casually brushing off the question. Yeah, that happened, doesn't matter, we just went to play cards. Nothing new. He acted impatient. On the one hand, it was true that many students had been asking him such questions lately, and he was getting a bit annoyed. On the other hand, this was an effective way to prevent further questioning and avoid letting anything slip. He had promised not to speak about certain stuff and intended to keep that promise. Is there something else? Did you know Yellow Dorm also has a dimensional gate? Oh.
who are you? It's been this long, and you still haven't remembered my name. The boy looked speechless. Oh, I remember now, you're Koreshino. Bastion Misawa. Hikaru, of course, didn't forget. In fact, this character in the original story was probably positioned as the third male lead and was the top freshman at Yellow Dorm, though he lost all presence in the later parts, so his name was often used for jokes. But for Hikaru, he was a great enemy. Because he was the top of the grade, a master of cultural courses. Since Hikaru wanted to win a scholarship to improve his life instead of just eating bread, dry and lonely, every day, Bastion was a challenge he had to overcome. After a brief conversation, Hikaru learned Bastion's purpose. Every year, Duel Academy has a friendly match with North Academy, and for some reason, this year, Professor Growler recommended Bastion to be the representative. Oh, I've heard of it. Jaden was recommended by Zane as the new student representative, right? Hikaru remembered the plot and casually said, I get it. So you want to settle things with him, but you don't know what cards he got in another dimension, so you want to fish for information from me? Are you offering next month's Yellow Dorm dimensional gate usage as a reward? I didn't expect that, Bastion-san. You're quite devious. Bastion broke into a cold sweat. What are you talking about? Why are you thinking so dark? Isn't that right? I was already going to say it. Hikaru was surprised. Bastion struggled for a while, then finally took a deep breath. That's not it, it's just, the Academy suddenly changed its policy. Why? Another plot difference from the original made Hikaru curious. It's like this, North Academy is offering an extra prize, apparently a newly discovered dimensional coordinate. I heard it contains cards of monsters from the magician race that have never been discovered. The winner of the Academy competition gets to go explore there. Monsters from the magician race? Actually, it fits the logic of this world. But what does this have to do with me? Hikaru still didn't understand. Do you really not know, or are you pretending not to know? Bastion was a bit speechless, rubbed his hair, and said with some hesitation, Professor Leo Akaba from the Fusion Club recommended you. What the? I've never even met him. What is this idiot up to? This is a conspiracy. Hikaru immediately realized that the old man surely had bad intentions. Otherwise, why would he recommend someone like him, someone he barely knew? That guy was undoubtedly not the good teacher type. Speaking of which, in the original, the final prize of this duel was Ms. Dorothy's kiss, which essentially meant the two principals of the academies had been constantly pursuing the welfare officer, so they were both very invested in this. In reality, it didn't really mean much to the academy students. That's why Hikaru had never paid attention to it before. But if there was another dimensional gate challenge reward, he would be interested. But a three-way battle is not allowed, so Professor Leo Akaba recommended a second-year student to test your qualifications. If you lose, you'll lose your eligibility. If you win, you'll be able to duel with me. With you? Hikaru raised an eyebrow and sized up Bastion. Bastion put on a confident smile. I'll surely beat Jaden. Hikaru took a sharp breath. Beat him? That Jaden? You? By the way, Professor Sartor said that this duel is also the second round of selection for Yellow Dorm's top spot, Bastion said, his eyes gleaming with focus. Sartor was the head teacher at the RA Yellow Dorm, at least in title as he had almost no presence. Top spot, huh? Hikaru mused. I won't let you have the top spot, Bastion said firmly, crossing his arms. Thanks, Bastion, for coming over and telling me all this. You're actually a good person, Hikaru said, feeling a bit emotional. His gaze suddenly turned firm as he looked at Bastion. By the way, whether it's the top spot or the first in the grade, I'll take it. Hikaru's eyes blazed. I'm going to win that scholarship, Shino. Otherwise, surviving on bread for a whole year would be impossible. It's Bastion. Bastion shouted angrily. Just wait. After I defeat Jaden, I'll make sure you remember my name. Chapter 18, Ban Order. Battle, Elemental Hero Great Tornado, Attack. Wah! We won. That was an interesting duel. The strong wind blew, and the 3D holograms on the battlefield gradually faded. Bastion didn't have the hard-fought battle with Jaden like in the original and was defeated by Jaden in just 3 rounds with a powerful new card he obtained from another dimension. So that winged guy evolved into the elemental hero Great Tornado in another space? Elemental hero Great Tornado, it's a potent fusion monster. Hikaru saw Bastion, looking dejected, walking off the duel field and approached him. Put. Hikaru laughed. Did he win? Of course, he lost. His talking big were all fleeting moments yesterday, and today he just lost to Jaden. Yo, Bastion. Haha, why didn't you ask me yesterday? Jaden realized one fusion card wasn't enough in the other dimension, so he added more fusion cards to his deck. If you had known, you wouldn't have been so foolish today, sealing only a single fusion. Bastion had sealed a fusion card with a counter trap, preventing Jaden from using fusion throughout the duel. But Jaden wasn't the same as before, he had already placed Fusion Gate into his deck. Bastion wasn't in the mood for jokes anymore, he shot Amagi a glare inside. Amagi, do your best. Win back for our Yellow Dorm's honor. Bastion was a good sportsman. And because Bastion was a good guy, Hikaru was happy to tease him, making him feel a bit better. Hikaru shrugged. It's not that easy. I don't even know who my opponent is. Yeah, after all, it's a second year. Hikaru adjusted his outfit, put on his duel disc, and walked up to the duel field. In the audience, Jaden and the others, who had just finished their duel with Bastion, immediately waved their hands enthusiastically and cheered for him. Go for it, Hikaru. Yeah, Amagi-kun. Good luck. Professor Sartor, I'm ready. Hikaru said to Sartor, who was acting as the referee. In the original, after Bastion lost to Jaden, this professor was quite upset because Bastion was his recommended student, and one remark from the principal made him even more upset. Why couldn't Yellow and Red Dorm cultivate excellent students? It was questioning Sartor's abilities and capacity as a professor. And now, seeing Hikaru step onto the stage in his purple school uniform, Sartor felt even worse. Why was there such an outstanding new student even in the Fusion Club? He had utterly lost all motivation to think about heartening underperforming students, and was reflecting on how much of a failure his own educational career had become. Now, as recommended by Professor Leo Akaba, from Obelisk Dorm's second year, student Ryu, please step up. Hikaru noticed a student in a blue uniform with dark circles under his eyes, looking like a junkie, shakily stepping onto the stage. Is this for real? Can he even duel with that body? In this world, dueling isn't just a game, there is real physical damage. Professor, is this really okay? Senpai's body looks a little off, Hikaru spoke up. Stop pretending to be kind, Hikaru. Ridu said harshly. The way I am today is all because of you. Don't act like you're being considerate. I'm here to get revenge on you today. Hikaru fell silent for a long while. After hesitating for quite some time, he finally asked, You are? Don't joke around. With the question you are, Ryu completely lost his composure, nearly charging forward to punch Hikaru. He gritted his teeth and muttered, half a month ago, Fusion Club, theft. Hikaru's gaze instantly turned sharp. He remembered now. So it's you. Hikaru dueled with different students every day, especially those from the Fusion Club, and ever since he defeated the senior from Blue Dorm, he gained tremendous popularity among Fusion Club students from Red and Yellow academies. Day in, day out, morning to night, students would challenge him for a duel. With so many people, he couldn't remember every single one. Forgetting someone was perfectly normal. Hearing Ryu's words, he immediately recalled. So it was this guy. Then, today might be tough. Don't think that defeating such an opponent is easy. On the contrary, since he's already been defeated, the opponent is more familiar with his deck and is more likely to set up countercards. But he's looking like he's caught a serious illness. It's indeed strange, though.
Hikaru looked around, only to see several students wearing protective goggles and purple uniforms, crowding around a big guy in a purple cloak who walked into the venue and sat in the back row, expressionless, staring at the stage. Leo Akaba. Hikaru frowned. So, was it him who caused all this? What exactly is this guy thinking? What are you looking around for? Ryu yelled. Fine, Hikaru responded. Duel. ×2. Hikaru, LP, 4000. Ryu, LP, 4000. As a senior, I'll let you go first. Here we go again. Fine. My turn, draw. Hikaru glanced at his hand. He wasn't sure what deck his opponent was using this time. Usually, he wouldn't even draw a monster, but this time, he drew an ancient gear monster. Master, it seems like the opponent isn't very popular among my colleagues, Hikaru heard the flame swordsman's comment. Hikaru nodded but didn't explain. Instead, he decided to make his move. I set a monster and a card face down, ending my turn. What about your fusion? Can't use it, or do you have another plan? Ryu glared at Hikaru, a cold smile on his face. Whatever, because I've already seen through you. My turn, draw. I activate the quick play spell card, Tornado. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew through, and the set card on Hikaru's field was instantly swept away, revealing its true form. Flame Swords Dance. Ryu revealed a grim smile. So you plan to use this card for support when I special summon my monster, huh? Too naive. Do you think I'm still the same as before? And I activate the continuous spell card, Prohibition. Prohibition? The audience gasped in surprise. Who would actually play something like that? I can declare a card name, and as long as this card is on the field, neither player can activate, summon, flip summon, or special summon this card, change its battle position, or use it as material for a special summon. I declare, Flame Swordsman. Ryu revealed a manic grin. That is a counter card. Who would use a card like this? Oh no, bro, the monster Hikaru mainly uses for fusion is the Flame Swordsman. Cyrus remembered this detail. Be careful, Hikaru. Jaden stood up instantly and cheered for Hikaru. Wow, Master, what's this guy doing? Even the spirit of Flame Swordsman shouted in Hikaru's ear. Originally, he hoped to have a nice fight in the human world, but just as he was about to make his move, this happened. It's not over yet. Ryu continued his harsh movements, drawing forcefully as if he were trying to tear the cards apart. You've always said fusion is the best, right? Well, let me show you an even stronger fusion. I activate the spell card, Absorb Fusion. Absorb Fusion? Hikaru was truly shocked. A Gem Knight card? Where did this come from? Did he find the DT, dual terminal? The main surprise is yet to come. During the turn I activate Absorb Fusion, I can only special summon Gem Knight monsters, and by its effect, I can add Gem Knight Tourmaline from my deck to my hand. Then, Absorb Fusion's effect resolves again, and I can banish monsters from my hand or field to perform a fusion summon. Wow, such an amazing fusion. Not only can he search for a card from the deck, but he can also fusion summon? I heard he's an elite of the Fusion Club. Then why is he wearing blue clothes? That harsh comment deeply wounded Ryu. He roared and flicked his hand, glaring fiercely, causing the student who spoke immediately shut up. I'll fuse 2 Gem Knight Tourmaline in my hand to fusion summon. Gem Knight Topaz. The gemstones flew out from 2 cards, clashing, shattering, and shining, eventually transforming into a brighter knight. Gem Knight Topaz, level 6er Thunder 1800 ATK. Gem Knight Topaz can attack twice in one battle, and when it destroys an opponent's monster, it inflicts damage equal to the destroyed monster's attack points. Wow, so powerful. Oh, if Amaji's monster has over 1000 attack points. Next, I'll summon in attack position, Ancient Gear Knight. Ancient Gear Knight, level 4 Earth Machine 1800 ATK 500 def. Whoa, now if the Fusion Club student's monster has below 500 attack points, it's definitely over.
That's amazing, no wonder they're from the upper grades.
Ryu sneered. Because of you, I've been ordered to leave the Fusion Club and faced criticism from others.
If it weren't for you, I would never have.
Alright, enough with the nonsense, Hikaru interrupted him.
In the end, you were the one in the wrong. Now you're bothering me, it's completely unreasonable. Even if you want a win to change your reputation, can we just have a proper duel?
You! Ryu's face flashed with anger. Grinding his teeth, he shouted at Hikaru, you can only maintain that face for now.
Let's go into battle. I'll attack your face-down monster with Topaz.
Hikaru! Amagi! As everyone shouted, Hikaru's lips curled downward as he pressed the duel disc. I activate the effect of a trap card.
What?
Where did you get a trap?
Trap card, Flame Swords Dance.
During the opponent's battle phase, I can banish this card from my graveyard and tribute one of my face-down monsters to activate it.
Then, I can special summon a monster from my deck or extra deck that has Flame Swordsman in its name.
Senpai, I told you about this effect.
Even so, the prohibition sealed off Flame Swordsman.
I send my face-down Ancient Gear Knight to the graveyard to special summon from my extra deck. Dark black flames rose around Hikaru, illuminating him like a dark deity. I've emphasized this many times, Senpai.
You don't deserve fusion. Come forth, Dark Flare Knight.
The pitch-black fire spread throughout the field, and a warrior with a red shield and golden sword calmly walked to Hikaru's side. He even had time to look at his face and smirk.
Dark Flare Knight, level 60 RK Warrior 2200 ATK. Fusion materials are Dark Magician and Flame Swordsman.
Chapter 19, Not Sticking to Your Own Fusion Material. Although prohibition prevents the summon of the Flame Swordsman, as an upgrade of the Flame Swordsman, the Dark Flare Knight is free from that ban. Of course, generally speaking, without a fusion between Dark Magician and Flame Swordsman, Dark Flare Knight cannot be summoned in this world. But Hikaru's trap card dealt Ryu a severe slap across the face, as Dark Flare Knight doesn't have Flame Swordsman in its name, and Flame Swords Dance can also special summon a monster that mentions Flame Swordsman aside from its name.
A fusion card that can be activated from the graveyard? That's amazing. No, that's beyond amazing.
Using a card from the graveyard and a monster on the field to bypass the normal fusion process to summon a fusion monster.
That's just too strong.
Beside them, Jaden, who had been a bit worried earlier, now saw that Hikaru not only took no damage but even restricted his opponent, and immediately high-fived Cyrus in celebration.
TCH. I set a card and end my turn. Ryu wiped the sweat from his forehead and glared at Hikaru through gritted teeth. My turn, draw. Hikaru examined his hand, and let out a wow. Good. It looks like I am going to fuse again. Although Ryu's face showed tension, deep down he already had a winning strategy prepared. His set card was the Sacred Shield, Mirror Force.
Ever since he lost to Hikaru, ever since he was kicked out by the Fusion Club, ever since Professor Growler publicly criticized him, he has been thinking day and night about how to defeat Hikaru. In his view, the Yellow Dorm is just the Yellow Dorm, and the Blue Dorm should be riding on the Yellow Dorm's head. Even if they are all members of the Fusion Club, it should be so. So he never felt that he was at fault. It was Hikaru who dared to defy him. It was that guy who didn't know gratitude and Professor Growler who didn't stand up for him. And after receiving help from Professor Leo Akaba, he finally got the chance for revenge. Following Professor Leo Akaba's teachings, he went to another dimension and searched for several Gem Knight cards, but these were only secondary. What was truly important was the boundless dark power hidden in that dimension. According to Professor Leo Akaba's teachings, he imbued his deck with shadow. As long as he defeated Hikaru, he could make Hikaru lose his arrogant confidence, even directly eroded into his own power. And this trap card is the strategy he painstakingly devised after many days of contemplation. Hikaru can duel with a full fusion deck, which is indeed very formidable, but as everyone knows, these fusions do not have the effect of destroying cards. No matter what fusion monster it is, as long as it attacks. Senpai.
Question mark. Hikaru examined the card in his hand, gently twirling one card while gazing at the sky as if deep in thought. Actually, after that, I also thought for a long time, sometimes wondering if I had done something wrong back then. Ha, at this point you finally realize you must apologize to me. After thinking for half a month, I finally concluded. Hikaru refocused his gaze on his opponent, and smiled. I was not wrong. I was absolutely right. I pay 2,000 life points to activate the spell card, Lullaby of Obedience. What is that? Hikaru stroked his chin. I originally intended to use this when dueling Jaden. After all, heroes are extremely high-quality fusion materials. Hey, Hikaru, what are you saying? Are you trying to steal my hero? From below, Jaden raised his fist to protest Hikaru. This is also called. Enough, stop talking. I know what you're trying to say. Hikaru interrupted him. Is this even called fusion? That's too narrow-minded, senpai. In a duel, it's never been said that only one's own monsters can serve as fusion materials. Ha! You're standing here today, talking nonsense, saying something about revenge, even bringing cards specifically to counter my deck. Then, if I'm not mistaken, you must want to return that line to me, right? That line. If you don't respect and take care of your cards, the cards naturally won't respond to you. So, you surely brought that card with you. I declare, Ancient Gear Golem. Ugh. Ryu was so startled that he stepped back. Hikaru's Lullaby of Obedience declares one card name, and the opponent must check their deck. If they have the declared monster card, they must either give it to the player who activated the card or ignore the conditions to special summon it onto the field of the player who activated this card. It's the same type of card as Prohibition? What's this called, an eye for an eye? I think that is a great move. The crowd below began discussing loudly. Hurry up and check, senpai, you must have it, right? Hikaru said. TCH. Ryu flipped through his deck, found a card, and threw it with force, tossing it into Hikaru's hands. Hikaru caught it and chuckled lightly. If you don't want me to special summon, that means. I don't care, I activate a spell card, Ready Fusion, paying 1,000 life points to special summon a level 6 or lower non-effect fusion monster from my extra deck. I special summon, Brachioratus. Next, I will use the Dark Flare Knight and Brachioratus on the field as a tribute to tribute summon, the Ancient Gear Golem. The Dark Flare Knight shrugged and his body dissolved into golden light. He was happy to make way for the Ancient Gear Golem, even though he couldn't truly show himself. Boom! The mechanical giant made of steel and gears slowly stood up, turning its head to look at Ryu, its eyes glowing with crimson light. Ancient Gear Golem, Level 8 Earth Machine 3000 ATK. Why does it look a little strange? Hikaru, subconsciously asking, glanced at the somewhat darkened Ancient Gear Golem beside him. It's the Ancient Gear Golem. A tribute summon? Didn't Hikaru-kun say he was going to fusion summon everything? Don't rush. Hikaru-kun's fusion moves have already exceeded what I imagined. Maybe there's still something big to come. Yes, Hikaru-kun, now you actually haven't fused, right? Ryu was still struggling. So naive, Hikaru shook his head. It's precisely because you misunderstand fusion, your foolish ideas about fusion, and your blind hatred for me that you ended up like this. I don't know what you've been through these days, but it doesn't matter. What does that have to do with me? Fusion is not that simple, senpai. Don't think that just because you got a fusion card and summoned a monster, you can compete with me. You and your monsters don't communicate thoughts, your understanding of fusion is rigid, you don't know how to reflect after failing, and you don't have a decent play. Yet you dare talk to me about fusion. Let me show you now the power of fusion. I activate the spell card, Ancient Gear Fusion. Ancient Gear Fusion. What's that? I've never heard of such a card. Oh my god. Even Professor Growler couldn't help but run to the edge of the duel stage, gripping the edge and leaning forward. He didn't even know what this Ancient Gear Fusion was. As the name suggests, Ancient Gear Fusion is a fusion card specifically for Ancient Gear monsters.
You can use monsters from the field or your hand as fusion materials to fusion summon an Ancient Gear fusion monster. However, when using an existing Ancient Gear Golem on the field as a fusion material, this card can also use monsters from the deck as fusion materials. From the deck. A monster from the deck. Fusion. Everyone watching gasped in astonishment. We know you like fusion, but isn't this a bit too powerful? It's starting. Hikaru raised his right hand, pointing at the sky. I will fuse the Ancient Gear Golem on the field, the Ancient Gear Golem and Ancient Gear Knight from my deck as fusion materials, and perform a fusion summon. Countless steel and gears flew out of the deck, soaring into the sky, flying towards the Ancient Gear Golem, assembling more parts to its body. He clapped his hands loudly in front of him and shouted, "Fierce hunting hounds, Iron Knights, now, transform your bodies and merge with the Ancient Giant to become the ultimate machine. I fusion summon, Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem." A massive giant with 4 legs, and arms that became enormous and incredibly tough, overshadowed the entire duel arena. Countless students looked up, unable to see the full scope of the giant. Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, Level 10 Earth Machine 4400 ATK. My goodness! It's the Ultimate Golem. Professor Growler naturally recognized the card, but how would an ordinary student get such a card? Whoa, it's huge, Cyrus exclaimed, staring in terror at the monster. Such high attack. Chumley swallowed nervously. Jaden, be careful of this monster. Meanwhile, Jaden was cheering, so cool, fusion. This monster is the fusion of the Ancient Gear Golem, inheriting its effect. When it attacks, the opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. Ultimate Golem, attack Gem Knight Topaz. Wait, Ryu stared at the enormous robot, stepping back in fear. He noticed that the massive robot was also surrounded by a black, ominous aura. It was probably because its fusion materials were his own cards. He remembered Leo Akaba had told him that the higher the attack power, the greater the impact it would cause. Ultimate Gear Strike! Hikaru shouted. With 4,400 attack points, the Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem struck down, and Ryu's body. No, don't, no. Boom! One punch landed. Hikaru was about to continue with his turn, but suddenly he tilted his head, becoming confused. Why had the 3D hologram disappeared? Professor Growler quickly jumped onto the dueling platform, rushed to Ryu's side, checked his breath, quickly performed CPR, shook his head, and then turned to shout, "Ryu has lost consciousness, the winner is Hikaru. Quick, call the Academy doctor." Hikaru stood frozen, stunned. Did I just knock someone out by playing cards? Chapter 20, Too Pure. Things are even more serious than Hikaru had imagined. It wasn't that someone got knocked unconscious from playing cards. They ended up hospitalized. At first, Hikaru thought that Ryu's poor condition was due to overwork over many days, and he initially wanted to persuade him to stop playing cards and just rest. He even assumed that the physical damage from the holographic image had knocked Ryu out. However, according to the school doctor's investigation, that wasn't the case. There was a strange dark power in Ryu's deck, a power that could damage both the body and the brain. The real reason his condition was so dire was that this dark force had been constantly clinging to his deck. Thanks to the emergence of the dimensional gates, this world isn't unfamiliar with dual spirits or spiritual power. In fact, it's quite well known, and it's said that in a certain major eastern country next door, civil engineering projects have even started using various large monsters' spiritual energy to assist in construction, making life much easier for countless construction workers. In short, due to the development of the world being somewhat different, the doctors in this world, especially the experts at Duel Academy, are very familiar with this kind of situation. So, does that mean that because I used his monster as material, that one punch delivered a huge blow of dark power to him? Hikaru listened to Professor Growler's explanation, nodding in understanding. So is he going to be unconscious for a while? How long? Do I have to pay his medical bills? I can't afford that. He truly had no money before coming to Duel Academy. He had spent all his savings on cards. He subsisted on nothing but dry bread daily. He was indeed broke. There's no such thing. Professor Growler shook his head. It was he who voluntarily added that card to his deck. According to Kaiba rules, of course, it's entirely his own responsibility. Kaiba rules? How ideal this world is. In a nutshell, Ryu had only himself to blame. Even if he got lucky, he'd be unconscious for a year or so, and there'd be no way he'd dare trouble Hikaru again. Moreover, because of what happened, today's duel simply couldn't continue. Of course, Hikaru welcomed it. He could only farm energy once a day. On account of that inexplicable dark power, his duel with Ryu had netted him quite a bit of energy, but it certainly couldn't compare to dueling Jaden. Dueling again tomorrow sounds like a good idea. Hikaru, I'm very pleased that you've managed to make it this far using the ancient gear deck. Once the formal discussion was over, Professor Growler turned back and leaned close to Hikaru, whispering, "Just now, the principal even praised me for your use of the ultimate ancient gear golem. Well done, you've earned extra points in the great evaluation with my authority." "Whoa, thank you, Professor." Hearing that he'd get extra points, Hikaru immediately grew excited. "If the principal asks, I'll say it's all thanks to you." "Good, good." Professor Growler's whole face contorted into an expression of intense eagerness as he repeatedly exclaimed his approval. Previously, the principal had indirectly criticized him for the poor quality of Blue Dorm's students this year. He had racked his brains for an excuse, but then he thought, hey, look at Hikaru. Even though he's a student in the Fusion Club, his trump card was given by me. He didn't even know where Hikaru's ultimate golem came from, and he couldn't possibly ask his students about private matters, but everyone knows this is his, Professor Growler's, ace card. That's why the principal thought he had taught Hikaru. When did he ever teach Hikaru? It was more like Professor Banner who did, but he still accepted it. There was nothing he could do, he simply had too much pride. Yet Professor Growler never expected Hikaru to be so easygoing. It seems I haven't paid enough attention to students from other dorms. There are many good students in the other dorms, too. He had been reflecting on his failures in education these past few days. Perhaps red and yellow aren't hopeless cases, it's just that he'd never really focused on them. Professor Growler then announced that the final qualification tournament would be held tomorrow. The students serving as spectators cheered and discussed among themselves who had the best chance to win. Some believed that the attack power of the ultimate golem was unbeatable, others argued that attack power was only one aspect and that the elemental hero Great Tornado could reduce the ultimate golem's attack by half, possibly overcoming it. Opinions were mixed, and no one could reach a consensus. Congratulations, Hikaru. It seems you've come further than I have. After Hikaru's turn ended, Bastion was the first to congratulate him. It's just luck, since the opponent still has one more turn. If he draws some really powerful card, I might not even be able to win. Excessive self-deprecation only makes people angry. Bastion continued laughing. Hikaru glanced around. Where's Jaden? After hearing of your improvement, he rushed out, saying he needed to adjust his decks. Hikaru nodded. Dueling isn't just about on-the-spot performance, adjusting your deck before a duel is also a crucial step. Speaking of which, I have some cards I can lend you. Do you want them? Bastion scratched his cheek a little awkwardly. Even though he had lost to Jaden, he still wanted to join in on the fun and participate in some way, just to get a feel for it. If his cards ended up defeating Jaden's, that wouldn't be a bad thing either. No, never mind. Bastion was a very wealthy person, not in terms of family background, but in terms of his card collection. In the original work, he owned 6 complete decks, each representing earth, water, fire, wind, light, and dark. And, beyond those 6, he even had a 7th deck. He was, in every sense, a card hoarder. Compared to the protagonist, who had spent all his savings just to put together a single deck, Bastion was truly rich. For someone like Hikaru, who lacked lower-level monsters and even had to borrow an ancient gear golem from his opponent, Bastion was an excellent source of support. But Hikaru was afraid that, mid-duel, he'd accidentally fuse Bastion's cards with super polymerization. If he couldn't return them afterward, that would be pretty embarrassing. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. His deck no longer had Ancient Gear Golem. His copy had already been completely fused into Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. In tomorrow's duel against Jaden, there was no way he could just miraculously draw Lullaby of Obedience and pull an Ancient Gear Golem from Jaden's deck, right? Well, at least that was a minor issue for now. By the way, Bastion, did you see where Professor Akaba went? Hikaru asked thoughtfully. Ah, he left as soon as you fused into the Ultimate Golem. He seemed busy. Bastion frowned in confusion. He was a sharp observer and had noticed many details. To be honest, it's strange. Aren't you the representative of the Fusion Club? He didn't seem too happy about it. What kind of scheme is that old man up to? Hikaru furrowed his brows. Why did that bald egg use Ryu to target him? He began recalling his past actions in the Fusion Club, trying to pinpoint anything that didn't align with standard fusion principles, but no matter how hard he thought, he couldn't figure it out. He was practically the purest fusion duelist there was. Leo Akaba had already returned to the Fusion Club's headquarters. That was amazing, Professor. Hikaru's performance was astounding. This time, our Fusion Club has a real shot at becoming the Academy's representative to duel against the Northern Branch students. A special dimensional coordinate, just hearing about it gets me fired up. Leo Akaba sat in his swivel chair, leaning back, his face expressionless. He let out a cold, indifferent brushing off the praise. Professor, should we go watch tomorrow's match as well? The representative of the Yellow Dorm asked eagerly. Hikaru was, after all, a student from their dorm, and he felt a sense of pride in his success. Leo Akaba glanced at him. That glance alone carried an almost murderous intent, instantly scaring him into silence. Leo Akaba leaned back slightly, his cold gaze fixed on the large floor-to-ceiling window before him. Through the glass, he stared at the dueling arena, as if he were watching Hikaru himself. He had never been a man without purpose. Establishing the Fusion Club, becoming its lead instructor, and guiding students toward fanaticism and extremism, it was all for his own ultimate goal. What he needed were soldiers, absolute followers of his purpose, a strict hierarchy where everyone knew only how to obey. When he gave an order, they would follow it without question. What he didn't need was a student who truly, purely believed in fusion. Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. That's not a card an ordinary student could get their hands on. Did that old bastard Growler notice something? As expected of a legendary duelist, he really couldn't be underestimated. Fine. I'll let you have this victory for now. Once the exhibition match is over. Bam! He slammed his fist onto the desk, creating a loud, resounding impact that made the entire room tremble. Everyone around him instantly froze in terror, too scared to utter a single word. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.